She was just 15. They found her in a cabin, 1,000 miles from home, with the man who took her. And it wasn't some stranger in the dark. It was her own teacher. You're watching an unbelievable true story, where we only tell real stories. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. This was 2017. Small town in Tennessee. Elizabeth Thomas was a quiet kid. Good grades, trusted adults. But one man, her high school teacher, Tad Cummins, started grooming her. He told her she was special, told her not to tell anyone. And one morning, she vanished. They drove across states. He cut her hair, changed her clothes, told her family would never find her. For 38 days, nobody knew where she was. Every 40 seconds, a child is abducted. 80% of the time, it's someone they already know. We linked a family safety course in the description and pinned comment. It teaches kids and parents what to do when something feels wrong, how to escape, speak up, and protect each other. Because most danger doesn't come from strangers, it comes from trust gone bad. Now stay with me, because we're about to break down who helped him hide, how the FBI tracked him down, and the one mistake that ended it all. Let's get into the full story. Elizabeth Thomas was born and raised in Columbia, Tennessee. Small town, not much going on. She was the kind of girl who kept to herself. Shy smile, good grades, loved her family, even when things were messy. And man, her life had been messy. Her home life wasn't all sunshine. Her mom had been charged with child abuse the year before. That meant Elizabeth leaned on school for some kind of safe space. She'd go to class, keep her head down, and try to get through the day. And that's where Tad Cummins came in. 50 years old, married, a health sciences teacher. To most people, he was Mr. Cummins, the guy you could trust your kids with. But behind the smile, he was watching Elizabeth in a way no teacher should. It started small. He'd talk to her more than other students. Tell her she was smart, special. He'd keep her after class to help her. He'd find reasons to be around her. And if you've never seen grooming up close, it's sneaky. It's slow. It's not like in the movies where somebody jumps out from behind a car. This is the long game. He made her feel like he understood her, like she could trust him, like he was the only one on her side. And you know how kids are. When home feels rough and someone listens, it's easy to get pulled in. Elizabeth started to see him as someone who cared. She didn't know he was setting her up. One day in January 2017, a student walked in on something. Cummins kissing Elizabeth in the classroom. The student told someone. It got to the school. It got to the cops. The school started investigating. They told Cummins not to have contact with her. Told him to stay away. But he didn't. On the morning of March 13th, 2017, Elizabeth got ready for school. She put on her clothes, packed her bag, left the house like it was any other Monday. But she never went to class. Instead, she met Cummins. He had his silver Nissan Rogue packed with supplies. Food, cash, hair dye, even sleeping bags. They were gone by sunrise. Her family panicked fast. They called the police. Amber Alert went out. But Cummins had planned this. He ditched his phone so they couldn't trace him. Took back roads. Paid cash for gas. He told Elizabeth they had to run because everyone would misunderstand their relationship. He made her believe it was them against the world. And here's the ugly truth. In the US, a child goes missing every 40 seconds. NCMEC 2023. Most of the time, it's not a stranger. It's someone they already know. Days turned into weeks. The FBI got involved. They put his face on the news. Tips came in from all over, but nothing stuck. Cummins kept moving them. Oklahoma, Texas, then all the way to California. He told people she was his wife. She told strangers her name was Joanna. And the way they lived, cheap motels, no internet. It was like they fell off the map. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in the woods in Northern California, but can get lonely real fast. The cabin they ended up in was small, one room, old stove, dirt outside. Belonged to some guy Cummins met at a commune. That's where they stayed, until someone recognized them from the news and called the cops. When SWAT rolled up that morning, they surrounded the place. They knew Cummins was armed. They didn't know what he'd do. But when the door flew open, Elizabeth didn't run. She just sat there, like she didn't know if she could. They took him in without a fight, put him in cuffs, told Elizabeth she was safe now. But you could see it in her eyes. Safe didn't feel real yet. That's why we added a real self-defense course in the description and pinned comment, made by law enforcement and martial artists. It's 1 hour you can do at home. 1 hour that might save your life. And this was just the start. Because after the arrest came the headlines, the trial, the letters Elizabeth had written, and the truth about what really happened during those 38 days. Man, 38 days. That's how long she was gone. Think about that. 38 mornings her family woke up wondering if she was alive. 38 nights her bed stayed cold. And the whole time, she was right there beside the man who took her. After they left Tennessee, Cummins didn't drive straight to California. Nah, he zigzagged. Back roads, small towns, cheap motels where nobody asked your name. If they did, he'd say she was his wife. 15 years old, y'all calling her his wife. That's some sick mess. Elizabeth? She wasn't in chains, but that doesn't mean she was free. He kept her close, kept talking to her, kept telling her the cops would twist their story, told her she'd go to jail if she went back. That's how you trap someone without a cage. You lock their mind. They stopped in Oklahoma first. He made her stay inside, curtains drawn, no TV news. He bought her a hoodie 2 sizes too big. Said it was so nobody could tell how old she was. From there, Texas. They stayed in a tiny roadside inn. Cash only. Elizabeth said later she'd stare at the wall for hours. Didn't know what day it was. Didn't even know what state they were in. By week 3, they were in Northern California. Wairika, small town near the Oregon line. That's where they met a guy at a local coffee shop. Cummins told him they were husband and wife starting over. Said they'd lost their house in a fire. The guy felt bad for them. Offered them a place to stay. A little cabin in the woods. Now, this cabin wasn't fancy. 1 room, old wood stove for heat. No TV, no phone. They cooked on a hot plate. Drank water from jugs. And outside, just trees and silence. You might think that sounds peaceful, but to Elizabeth, it was a prison. The walls were thin. The air smelled like smoke and damp clothes. And every time she stepped outside, Cummins was right behind her. Meanwhile, the FBI was working nonstop. They had his car description, a silver Nissan Rogue. They had his photo all over the news. They got hundreds of tips, but most went nowhere. Then one day, a mechanic in California called in. Said he saw that exact car parked at a Walmart. No plates. Looked like someone tried to hide the VIN number. Agents rushed over, but the car was gone. Still, that tip kept them looking in the area. Now here's where it gets crazy. It wasn't the FBI who found them first. It was a regular guy, the same man who gave them the cabin. Something about Cummins started feeling off. Too controlling, never letting the girl talk. And she looked way too young to be his wife. So the guy Googled Cummins' name. And boom, front page news. Amber Alert. FBI wanted. He called the police. Said, I think the teacher you're looking for is in my cabin. The next morning, March 30th, 2017. FBI agents, local deputies, and SWAT surrounded the place. They moved quiet. 1 team to the front, 1 to the back. Inside, Elizabeth was sitting on the bed, still wearing the same oversized hoodie. Cummins was at the table, drinking coffee. No idea the woods outside were full of armed officers. Then, bam, front door flew open. FBI, hands up. Elizabeth froze. Cummins' hands went in the air. No fight. No yelling. Just like that, it was over. They pulled Elizabeth outside, wrapped her in a blanket, and walked her to safety. She didn't cry, didn't talk much, just kept looking at the ground, like her mind hadn't caught up to her body being free. Cummins was arrested on the spot, charged with aggravated kidnapping and sexual contact with a minor. That's the thing about rescue stories. We think the hard part ends when the cops show up, but for the victim, sometimes that's just the start. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, a child goes missing every 40 seconds in the U.S., NCMEC 2023, and 80% of the time, it's someone the child already knows. Elizabeth went home that week, but home didn't feel the same. Reporters outside, people whispering in the grocery store. Classmates looking at her like she was a headline instead of person. And Cummins? He sat in jail, waiting for a trial that would spill everything out in public. That's why we added a real family safety course in the description and pin comment. It's not about scaring kids. It's about showing them how to spot danger, even when it's someone they trust. 1 hour that might save a life. Now, you might think this is the end. Girl rescued. Bad guy caught. Roll credits. But the letters, the interviews, and what Elizabeth said about those 38 days, that's where the story cuts deep. Because she didn't even know she was kidnapped at first. Not in the way you think. And the way he kept her quiet, it'll make your skin crawl. Elizabeth Thomas was 15. And 15 don't know the world like grown folks do. She thought she'd seen trouble. Her home life had been loud, tense, sometimes scary. So when someone older said, "I can protect you," part of her wanted to believe it. That's what Cummins fed on. He didn't just grab her one day. No, he worked on her mind first. From day one on the road, he kept telling her the same things. "They're gonna lie about me. They'll lock you up. Your family doesn't understand us. And when you're far from home, no phone, no TV. His voice is the only one in your ear." That's not romance. That's prison without bars. She told investigators later that, at first, she thought it was like a road trip. Like they were running away from the noise. They drive all day, listen to music, stop for gas station snacks. He'd smile like it was some adventure. But then the rules started. She couldn't talk to people, couldn't look at strangers too long. If she wanted to go outside, he'd stand in the doorway. In Oklahoma, she sat in that motel for 4 days without leaving the room. The curtains stayed closed. Air stale from the heater running nonstop. Only sunlight was a thin slice slipping under the door. Cummins told her, "The cops are looking everywhere. If they find us, we'll never see each other again." That was his trick. Make her think being found was the bad thing. By the time they hit Texas, Elizabeth's voice had gotten quiet. Like she didn't even have the energy to argue. They'd eat instant noodles, peanut butter, crackers. He kept cash folded in his sock. And his gun, always close by. She didn't see a way out. And that's the part people don't get. Sometimes the cage is in your head. When they made it to Wairika, California, Cummins tried to turn it into some fresh start story. He told folks they were newlyweds who lost everything in a fire. He shaved his beard, dyed her hair, and she had to answer to a fake name, Joanna. The cabin was cold at night. You could hear the wind whistle through the walls. He'd sleep with the gun on the nightstand. Elizabeth would stare at the ceiling, counting the hours until morning. Now, here's where it got real twisted. He'd tell her, "We're special. People won't understand us. We just have to wait until you're old enough." That's how abusers keep control. They dress it up like love. But love don't hide you in the woods. Love don't make you lie about your name. 38 days in that kind of fog. Your sense of time goes. Days blend. Seasons don't matter. The only clock is when he says it's time to eat, time to sleep, time to move. Back home in Tennessee, her family was falling apart from the worry. Posters in every store window. News crews parked outside their house. Her sister begged her on TV, "Please come home. We love you." Elizabeth didn't see any of it. She didn't even know her face was on every screen in America. That last week in the cabin, she started to notice things. The guy who gave them the place kept looking at her like he had questions. Like he could see she wasn't smiling with her eyes. He'd ask her simple stuff. "You like the town? You been to the diner yet?" And Cummins would answer for her. Then one morning, she heard the man outside on the phone. She couldn't make out the words, but his voice was low and steady. Turns out, he'd gone online, typed in Cummins' name, and boom, there it was. Her picture, Amber Alert, everything. When the SWAT team came the next day, it was like the air shifted. She didn't even know why at first. She heard the boots outside, the voices, and then BM, door open, men in black yelling commands. She sat there, frozen, hands in her lap, couldn't move, couldn't speak. One agent walked right up, put a blanket over her shoulders, and said, "You're safe now." Safe. That word felt strange, like maybe it wasn't meant for her. Not yet. When Cummins was dragged out, he didn't shout, didn't fight, just looked at her like he still had something to say. But she didn't meet his eyes. Not this time. The ride away from that cabin was silent. She looked out the window, trees, sky, the world wide open again. And all she could think was, how do you go back to normal after this? According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, most kids taken like this aren't grabbed by strangers. They're taken by someone they already know. NCMEC 2023. That's why we put a family safety course in the description and pin comment. It's made for parents and kids together. How to spot danger early, how to speak up, how to break free. But Elizabeth's road home wasn't simple. When the news broke, her life became a headline. Some folks whispered, some blamed her, like she had a choice. That's the thing about these stories. The victim still gets judged while the predator sits in court. When they brought Tad Cummins back to Tennessee, he didn't look like the man in the Amber Alert photo. Beard gone, hair shorter, eyes dull like he was already somewhere else. But don't get it twisted. He knew exactly what he'd done. The charges hit fast. Aggravated kidnapping, sexual contact with a minor, federal charges for crossing state lines with intent. In court, he wore that jail orange, hands cuffed, and still, he tried to play it like he was the victim, like people just didn't understand their relationship. Elizabeth had to sit there, 15 years old, in a courtroom full of strangers, hearing lawyers read out what happened to her. Every move, every day in that cabin, every lie he told, that's a different kind of hurt. Having your pain turned into paperwork. Prosecutors said Cummins planned it for weeks. Brought cash so they couldn't be traced. Bought hair dye so she'd look different. Even searched online for teen marriage laws in other states. This wasn't some heat of the moment thing. It was a plan. When it came time to face the judge, Cummins finally pled guilty to federal charges. Transporting a minor across state lines for sex and obstruction of justice. The sentence? 20 years in federal prison. Now, some folks cheered at that. Said, he's gone for good. But Elizabeth knew 20 years isn't forever. One day, he'll walk out, and she'll still remember the smell of that cabin, the sound of boots in the dirt, the fear of looking over her shoulder. After the trial, Elizabeth tried to go back to school. But you can't really go back from something like that. People treated her different. Some with pity, some with curiosity, some with that ugly judgment, like she'd done something wrong. She ended up leaving public school and finishing at home. Kept her circle small, trusted almost no one. A couple years later, she did an interview. Said she wanted people to know how easy it is to get trapped like she did. That grooming doesn't look like danger at first. That sometimes the person hurting you is the one everyone trusts. She said, I didn't even know I was kidnapped at first. I thought I chose to go, but he made me believe I had no choice. And that's the thing. Predators don't always use chains. Sometimes they use words. Sometimes they use kindness like bait. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, a child goes missing every 40 seconds in the U.S. And 80% of those cases involve someone the child already knows. NCMEC 2023. That's why we put that family safety course in the description and pin comment. 1 hour that teaches parents and kids together what danger looks like, what to do if you feel it, and how to get help fast. Elizabeth is grown now. She's talked about wanting to help other survivors, wants to be a voice for kids who feel trapped and alone, because she knows not every story like hers ends with a rescue. And every year she's out here living her life is another year he's locked away. That's something. But the scars? They don't follow the prison calendar. They follow you home, into the grocery store, into your dreams, into the way you lock your doors at night. Elizabeth said she still thinks about that moment the door flew open. The sound of boots on the floor. The voice saying, you're safe now. That's the moment she tries to hold on to. The moment she knew she'd see her family again. Now, most folks think lightning doesn't strike twice. That once something like this happens, you're somehow immune. But the truth? Danger doesn't care how many times you've been hurt. It just looks for the next open door.